Kumo 9 days later. "Wow, this place is actually kind of nice," said Anko, as she was in disguise in a henge with a fake ID card indicating she was a traveler, and Vergil had done the same, though he had hanged his hair to be red while giving himself a tattoo of a skull on his cheek. "Considering it's an opposing village, then yes it is," said Vergil, as he walked through it while ignoring the looks of several girls looking at him with cherry-red faces and the scent of their arousal filling his nose. "So do you think the Nibi vessel is here in the village now?" said Anko, as she didn't see anyone that matched the description of said woman, and there was no demonic chakra being felt by either Leaf Shinobi. "Yes. From what Jiraiya told me of the Raikage, he likes to keep her on a short leash and close to Kumo at all times. It's his way of telling her that she belongs to him, and there will be hell to pay should she try to leave," said Vergil as he saw Anko snarl at that. And Vergil could understand why, since they didn't like being told what to do like property, or slaves for that matter. "Wait! What's that I'm hearing?" said Anko as it sounded like shouts, and a large crowd seemed to be forming around a certain area of Konoha. "The bitter sounds of hatred," said Vergil, as they leaped to the rooftops with Anko now following, and removed the henges around them before crouching down on the roof of a building right above the mob. "Get the demon, bitch!" yelled one person, who threw an empty bottle at her, and barely missed the slightly injured blonde-haired woman wearing a Junin outfit that Kumo Shinobi wore.
"Let her know that she is beneath us," yelled another person, as he threw a brick at the Nibi vessel, and was destroyed by the said woman's fist. "I think we found the Nibi vessel, but how are we going to get her out of this without raising a stink, and back to Konoha without the entire village's shinobi force attacking?" said Anko, as she looked to where Vergil was, but found he wasn't there, and was in fact now on the ground walking through the crowd towards the blonde woman now beginning to draw on the Nibi's power.
"Get away from me, or else I'll turn you into ash," said Yugito, as she hissed at him, and was about to send a good portion of Nibi's fire at him, when he stopped just a few feet of her before turning around with his sword, drawn that made Nibi become frightened on a level Yugito didn't think was possible. "Do you seek sanctuary?" said Vergil, as he saw the crowd back up, while Anko stuck to the shadows to prepare for their escape out of Kumo. And the half-devil had an idea of what she was going to do? "What?" said Yugito as she saw Kumo Shinobi coming in this direction, and she had no doubt that they were going to pin this on her. "I can give you sanctuary if you come with me. I can take away the pain of being hated for the demon inside of you," said Vergil, as the civilians dispersed when the shinobi arrived, and had their weapons drawn. "You! Throw down your weapon and step away from the demon bitch," said a Kumo Anbu captain with a katana sword in hand. "If I take you up on your offer, how do I know you won't try to make me your weapon like the Raikage has in the past, and do your dirty work?" said Yugito, as she wondered how this boy was going to free her, and why the Nibi seemed to be shaking either with fear or excitement. "Because I was once like you, but I broke free, and I can grant you that freedom if you wish it," said Vergil, as he saw the group of Kumo shinobi around him getting angry at being ignored. "Hey! Did you hear me? Drop your weapon and step away from the Raikage's demon vessel," said the Anbu captain, and was about to attack when he saw the cold eyes of Vergil staring back him. "Trust him, kitten. I sense no lies in his words. I sense QB's aura around him, but it's different than usual, and there is something else. Something I have not sensed in a very long time," said Nibi, as she did feel QB inside of Vergil due to the Shinigami's connection to the boy, and knew only the Shinigami had the power to seal away QB, and even then into a newborn infant. "I'll come with you, but how do we get out of here?" said Yugito, as she had come to trust the cat demon more over the years, and knew that her survival in getting out of this bigot-filled hellhole required trusting the people Nibi said to trust. "Through my teammate in this mission." "Anko!" said Vergil, as he saw the Anbu charge at him finally, while a giant snake came out of nowhere, causing his along with the other Kumo shinobi to look at the summons before the half-devil struck, cutting through them before they even had a chance to attack. Turning around, Vergil grabbed Yugito, who was surprised he could even do that, and leaped onto the giant snake summons that Anko was now commanding to head out of Kumo, while telling it to do a lot of damage along the way. The snake summons didn't mind, as it enjoyed smashing through the places when following orders, and since word got out of Orochimaru's death, that meant that Anko was the only one that could summon them. Something that Vergil made clear to Manda before entering Kumo. Flashback 2 days ago. "What? Orochimaru is dead," said Manda, as Anko had summoned him, and he had a look on him that told the two below him that he was angry. Then again, Manda was always angry, so that was nothing new. "He is... I killed him," said Vergil, as he saw Manda narrow his eyes at him and hissed at the half-devil. "Then why did you summon me here? Surely not to let this weakling next to you inform me that she is to become my new summoner. The fact she can even summon my kin with me being the exception is something I don't tolerate easily. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't just eat the two of you now," said Manda, as he was going to if he wasn't given a good reason, and saw Vergil narrow his eyes at the snake before grabbing onto Manda's nose with his devil arm.
"Because if you don't do what Anko-chan says, I'm going to have to get violent, Manda, and the last time I got violent I killed a lot of people," said Vergil, as he squeezed Snake Summon's nose hard, and kicked the giant snake with his boot hard under the jaw that sent Manda's upper body back that he looked like a giant sea before he came down hard.
"Whoa," thought Anko, as she had never seen anyone do that to Manda. And it was clear that the now angry boss summons for snakes felt the same way. "You arrogant human filth. I am going to enjoy devouring you whole," said Manda, as he lashed out at Vergil, who drew Yamato from its sheath, moved away from Manda's mouth, and slashed diagonally down on the snake's face that left a deep scar along the eye that, had it been any closer, would have made the boss summons lose the organ. "Care to try again? Because to be honest, you are more valuable alive, and I would rather not deal with one of your children that could take your place after I kill you," said Vergil, as he aimed his blade under Manda's jaw when driven forward, would pierce flesh and strike the boss summon's brain. "What do you want from me?" said Manda, as he felt the sharp point of the sword, and could see this boy was not playing around. "Simple. Anko is your new master summoner. When she summons you, there will be no sacrifices. No demands for sacrifices. And if you do," said Vergil, as he let the threat hang there so Manda got the point, and felt his own sword's point needed to be used to enforce the threat. "Very well, I agree to the terms. Just don't get weak or I will kill you both if I see it," said Manda, as he went poof out of their sight, and left them alone for a good few seconds before Anko tackled Vergil to give him a big heated kisses, while saying thank you after each kiss. End flashback. Vergil's thoughts on the moment broke as he looked down at the blonde woman he was holding at the waist, and sensed she was trying to keep her blush down at such close contact with him, since it was rare feeling to be held in such a way. Behind them, Kumo shinobi were hot in their pursuit of them, as the Raikage had appeared on the scene not long after they tried to get away, and told every shinobi in Kumo to go after them to bring back Yugito. "These guys are still pursing us, Vergil-kun. Even with my pet trying to get us to the Fire Country border, they can still try to stop us. And if I were them, it would have to be pretty soon," said Anko, as she knew that her summons could be hurt with a well-aimed jutsu, and would throw them off violently, allowing the enemy to get the drop on them. "Leave them to me then. Get Yugito to the Fire Country border. Once there, you can get her close to Konoha before waiting for me to catch up, and have her see the old hag," said Vergil, as he let go of Yugito slowly. But the woman held on to him, and didn't want to lose him since this was her only chance to fully escape Kumo. "You will come back, right? I only left Kumo because of what you promised me," said Yugito, as she felt so embarrassed right now groveling before this boy, a few years her junior, and wished she could do something to prove she wasn't this weak, sniveling girl. "I promise you, Yugito-chan, that I will return," said Vergil, as he saw her blush before he leaped off the giant snake summons, and drew his sword for battle. Damn. He already has the two slave girls back home? A Hyuga, a Yamanaka. And if the rumors are true, a Inuzuka heiress after him. Does he need any more? Wait, why do I even care? Damn body wanting to jump him after all that kissing, thought Anko as she had to restrain herself because of their timetable in retrieving Yugito from Kumo. As the snake slithered at high speed towards Fire Country, Vergil waited until he was surrounded by Kumo shinobi, all ready to fighting him, and was not disappointed when a Junin came at him first with a kunai in hand. The man was sliced to pieces before the half-devil found had to dodge and dual sword-wielding Ambu, and quickly cut through a Chunin that tried to take advantage of the action.
Lightning style. Lightning bull jutsu. Said a Kumo Junin with several scars on his face from the previous shinobi war and thought his jutsu would hit dead on because of the steel weapon in Vergil's hand. Vergil, however, put Yamato in his left hand, raised his right hand now turned demonic, and caught the lightning jutsu before redirecting it back, killing its creator in an instant.
Nice try. But now it's my turn now. Demonic earth style, trembling earth jutsu, said Vergil, as he slammed his demonic hand down, and shook the ground around him in an unnaturally violent way, sending the Kumo shinobi flying everywhere. Get him, said a Kumo Anbu, who moved in for close-range combat, and tried to beat Vergil using advanced taijutsu fighting designed specifically for Anbu and Kumo. Vergil threw Yamato into the air before moving his body to either counter or block the taijutsu moves thrown at him before redirecting the power he absorbed from the moves into a single attack. An attack that blew up two shinobi he hit at the same time when they thought they could double-team him together. When the sword he had thrown into the air came down, Vergil caught it and used it in his taijutsu to cut off the limbs of the Kumo shinobi that attacked him before kicking them away, leaving them with bloody stumps.
It wasn't long though before the other Kumo shinobi jumped in to fight Vergil, but were defeated, and turned into bloody piles of nothing. They were either defeated by his sword, his taijutsu, or his own arsenal of jutsus that killed if not crippled his opponents.
That seems to be all of them. Now to get back to the others, thought Vergil, as he saw the remains of the group of Kumo shinobi on the ground, and sheathed his sword before taking off to find the other two. Within moments of Vergil leaving, however, a lone female figure wearing a hunter nin mask and a large sword on her back. Inspecting the area and sensing the chakra signatures in the area, the figure clenched her fist when she sensed the half-devil's chakra, and then looked at the direction the trail was leading.
He was here. I'm close. Soon I will have my revenge, thought the individual, as she went to follow her prey, and when he was within her grasp, she would strike.
With Anko and Yugito. The two women had settled down in a forest area after the giant snake was dispersed, as they waited for Vergil to return, and Anko could see Yugito was a bit nervous. Yugito had gone on long-distance missions before for the Reikage, but she was always been with a well-armed Ambu team to ensure she didn't go rouge, and she knew they had orders to neutralize her before taking her back to Kumo to be reeducated. The mere thought of what that meant sent a shiver of Yugito's spine, and the Nibi telling her she made a smart move in leaving to be with her new mate. That of course made the poor woman blush a good shade of red and was mentally screaming at her cat for making such a statement that had no truth to it whatsoever. Why are you so flustered? Thinking about a certain silver-haired hunk who has a killer sword and knows how to use it, said Anko, as she saw Yugito's blush deepen and look away while mumbling to what sounded like herself and keeping such thoughts out of her head. Though Anko suspected the girl was talking to Nibi more than herself. I'm so happy you finally found a mate, my little kitten. I can see it now. Both of you are together, alone, drinking milk and eating tuna while watching the sun set before that big moment where you present yourself to him, so he can mount you to... While Yugito had put her fingers in her ears and cutting out the image Nibi was putting in her head. That's not my fantasy, Nibai-chan, it's yours, thought Yugito, who saw Nibi snicker at her and had a look that told of mischievousness.
Oh, so you are having fantasies about him? My little kitten is becoming a true feline thanks that hunky bit of half-devil meat, said Nibi, as she flinched at the yelling Yugito was giving her, and wondered how the girl could have such a high-pitched set of lungs.
Then again, that may work in her favor if Nibi could get the half-devil and her vessel together.
Shut up, Nibi. And what do you mean half-devil? Don't you mean half-demon? Thought Yugito, as she did sense the young boy, which she kept trying to repeat in her head, did have an aura about him that was demonic, and thought it had to do with his own demon sealed away.
Technically, a devil is a demon, but devils are really high up on the demonic food chain. And judging from what I felt earlier from this young man, he is the long-lined descendant of Sparda, said Nibi, as she had not been born around that time, but her great-great-grandmother when she was just a kitten herself. However, did meet one of the two sons of Sparda on several separate occasions, and had passed down the feeling of that demonic chakra signature down from feline to kitten, so none of them would forget it. Sparda, said Yugito, as she said that out loud, and it got Anko's attention.
Yep. From what I was taught when I was a kitten, Sparda was the toughest devil on the block, and every female demon wanted nothing more than to mate with him back in the day. This boy seems to be his long-lined descendant from one of his twin sons he sired ages ago, said Nibi, as she saw Yugito absorbing all this information, and knew that her vessel was going to enjoy being with this kid as time progressed.
Is he like us though? Said Yugito more to herself, even though she was speaking outside of her own mind. He was like you at one point. I don't know what happened, of course, but if I were to make a guess, I would say he somehow used the demon that was sealed inside of him to jumpstart his power, and would have to have a powerful demon to make it happen, said Nibi as she thought more about it, and wondered what demon Vergil held before his ascension. Let's just ask him at a later time. All right, said Yugito, as she didn't feel comfortable in where this conversation was heading, and it was only now did she realize she was talking outside of her mind.
Problems inside your head. I get that on occasion, but when I go to my happy place, they tend to go away, and I hurt people since it's part of my job description, said Anko, as she made Yugito's sweat drop, and the Nibi inside of her doing the same. Considering your line of work, that's no surprise, Anko-chan, said Vergil, as he appeared in front of them, and saw Yugito's eyes light up with joy at his return.
Vergil-kun, said Anko as she tackled him, and buried his face into her chest while moving as deep as she could into her chest. That bitch, thought Yugito angrily and hissed at the woman for doing that to her. Vergil-kun. Oh. So he's your Vergil-kun now. But you do have a point, kitten. This snake bitch has to die, said Nibi, as she felt her kitten getting angry, and quite frankly, so was she in this matter.
Anko-chan, this can wait until after we complete the mission, and everything concerning Yugito becomes official with the Hokage, said Vergil, as he snaked his hand under her skirt, and gave it a healthy squeeze that made Anko moan out in pleasure.
Fine. But when this is over, you and me are going to have a loom talk about this, said Anko, as she freed him from her bosom, and smirked at him while Vergil just smirked back.
I'm sure you will make it quite stimulating, Anko-chan, said Vergil, as he found the fox inside of him telling him to take Anko right now, and then Yugito afterwards so the girl wouldn't be left out.
All Vergil had to do was tell him to shut up, and surprisingly the Kyuubi listened. The trio made it back to Konoha without any further incidents, as they entered the new Hokage's office, and gave Tsunade a full report while explaining he recruited Anko for this mission, along with giving her a fair share of the mission pay. Tsunade wasn't thrilled by this, but considering Vergil got the job done, and weakening Kumo considerably, she wasn't going to argue. Okay, Yugito, was it? I'm putting you on a temporary probation status with us here in the Leaf. Also, to prevent people from hating you here like they did in Kumo, we're going to keep the information about the Nibi sealed inside of you a secret, and have you stay with Vergil until further notice at the Namikaze Estates. We will run a test assessment of your skills within the week privately at the estates, to see where you rank as a shinobi. While the Reikage no doubt gave you Junin status because of your demon, I am not going to have you use its powers during this test to see how strong you are without it. And have you train with Vergil after I see just how strong you really are, said Tsunade, as she saw Yukito blush for a second before it vanished, and Anko seething silently while Vergil just looked calm. Yes, Hokage-sama, said Yugito, as she was silently glad to be living with the same person, who had saved her from Kumo, and brought before a Hokage that didn't see her like a mindless weapon to use on dangerous missions before throwing her away. Nibby kept telling her that this was her chance to get laid, but that wasn't worth paying attention to, and had to fight back against the blush that came after Tsunade finished speaking.
Also, I would like to know if you know anything about the incident with the ambassador from Kumo and if the Raikage had really sent him to capture a Hyuga for their bloodline limit. Said Tsunade, as that had always pained her old sensei into sacrificing a member of the Hyuga family that eventually led to the death of Hyuga Hazashi along with the blood feud within the clan. If the Raikage was involved, he didn't share or brag about it in front of me, but I would bet Nibby's whiskers that he sent the man to do just that. The Raikage has always wanted to have more of everything to outnumber his enemies and instill a sense of dread upon all those that would oppose him. When it came to demon vessels, he felt having two would give him an advantage over another village with their one, and having the Byakugan in Kumo for himself is something I would expect him to try without a doubt, said Yugito, as she saw Tsunade nod, and accept her statement on the matter for now.
Very well then. Dismissed, said Tsunade, as she sat back in her chair, and let out a sigh from the knowledge of what Vergil had done, sink into her own mind before smiling at the notion of the Raikage being extremely upset.
It could spark another shinobi war, but then again when the man realizes just who it was that freed Yugito from his grasp, the man will think twice, and possibly back off. Even then, the man had another more powerful demon vessel at this disposal, and to reveal he lost one already would make him look weak in front of everyone.
No, for the moment, the Raikage wouldn't do anything, and keep quiet to prevent himself from looking like a fool. Namikaze states 15 minutes later. Are you sure you don't want to crash for the night, Anko-chan? I have plenty of room for you in here, said Vergil, as he looked at the purple-haired woman, who had flirted so heavily with him, and he back at her with that same amount heavy flirting.
Nah, I'd just trash the place like I do my home. Maybe another time, said Anko even though her instincts were telling her to go in there with him and let him impale her with his sword, until her throat was too sore to scream anymore.
Another time it is then, said Vergil, as he took her hand, and kissed it, making Anko shiver at the touch that he had instilled on her person. With Anko now going home, Vergil walked into his home followed by Yugito, and was instantly hugged by his two slaves before they kissed him passionately to show just how much they missed him. Welcome home, Vergil-sama. Your slaves are ready to follow your every command, said Kin, as she felt his hand on her rear, and the other on Tayul, much to the joy of the blushing redhead. Very well. My first command is to meet me upstairs in my room, and my second is for you both to wear in your panties, said Vergil into their ears, and gave each of their butts a good groping before they headed upstairs to their master's bedroom. You sleep with them, said Yugito, as she saw Vergil look at her, and she knew he was going to explain.
They are former shinobi from Sound, so they fall under the guidelines of being adults by a shinobi village, but after the failed invasion, I took them as slaves after they told me everything concerning the late Orochimaru. I admit, I didn't plan on being with them so soon, but being around so many hot women like yourself, and them does take its toll on my self-control. I didn't rape them if that's what you think, said Vergil, as the two slaves came to him willingly, and helped him unlock a side of him that was partially buried.
Well, I guess that makes sense, said Yugito, as she saw Vergil nod a little, and showed her to the guest room that would be hers until further notice.
Remember, you are not a prisoner here, Yugito-chan, and will be treated with respect in my house. The Hokage has already put the necessary papers in motion to have you as my guest under the protection of my clan to prevent any members of the councils from doing anything stupid. As for trusting her, I wouldn't worry since she is my godmother, and owes me for lacking in her responsibilities and being one for most of my life, said Vergil, as he saw Yugito's eyes widen at that news, and felt her fears of being used like some kind of mindless weapon be put down at that news.
Without another word, Vergil shut the door behind him, and left Yugito to enjoy her stay at his estates with her collapsing on her new bed, before squirming around in it, like a cat does, in a comfortable spot. It likes Instantly, Yibi began talking to her vessel, telling her how lucky she had become, and was finally living in a place where the room could barely hold one person, with a bed that didn't look like a prison cell. Now if only you had stripped naked for that sexy half-devil, and asked him take your virginity, said Nibi, making Yugito blush several shades of red before going into a squeal, along with unleashing a big hissy fit that made Nibi laugh and ignore the threats the woman gave. With Vergil.
When the young half-devil walked into his room, he was greeted to the sight of Kin and Tayuya both in just their panties while sitting on his bed eagerly awaiting him. Putting his sheathed sword against the door wall, Vergil removed his trench coat, his boots, and his shirt before he got to the edge of the bed.
"You've had a long, tiring mission, Master," said Kin, as she got off the bed before kissing him with a passion, and her hands undoing his pants. "Let us help you relax like all slaves should do for their master," said Tayuya, as she was doing the same, and soon they had their master naked with a massive erection that was in need of being satisfied.
Without another word, the half-devil let his slaves pleasure his erection with their hands and their mouths while Vergil enjoyed the sensations they were giving him. He groaned out their names, as he put a hand on each of their heads, and massaged their scalps while they used their mouths to give his cock pleasure. "Yes. Finally, my vessel is getting some much-needed release, and while I think you should have tapped the Nibi's vessel, this will do for now," said Kyuubi, as he had seen how his vessel had been slowly unwinding from his serious self, and was finding that the process of mounting a willing mate, or slaves in this case, was doing wonders for his cold personality.
"Come for us, Master. Let your sea fill our mouths, splash on her faces, and bodies of your slutty slaves meant only to pleasure you," said Kin as she licked the tip of his cock, and Tayuya slobbered all over the length of his shaft while both their hands caressed his balls together. "Kin-chan! Tayuya-chan," said Vergil, as he couldn't hold out on their combined oral assault on his erection, and came all over the two girls with both of them taking his cock in their mouths, taking turns swallowing his seed. When he finished, released his load, Vergil looked down at his cum-covered girls, and the sight of them like that made his lust for them reach all new heights. Making a shadow clone, Vergil along with his clone placed the two slave girls front first on the bed before pulling down their panties and brushed their lengths against their pussy folds, making each girl shiver with delight. Neither knew whether they got the original or the clone, but what they did know was they were going to be fucked beyond all expectations. And they were right. With Yugito. Yugito struggled to sleep as she loved the comfy new room, the bed, the sheets on the bed, and the sense of security the place provided. Normally this wouldn't be a problem, but there was just one problem right now, and it had something to do with her host that had taken her in. She could hear him getting it on with his two slave girls, and it was making her feel that particular itch that she had trained herself to ignore back in Kumo. But again, there was another set of problems with that whole method in terms of suppressing that itch.
Yugito wasn't in Kumo. Her own hearing, which was more sensitive thanks to Nibi, was picking up everything in the threesome's bedroom, and the Nibi sealed inside of her was giving her erotic images while telling her to get some of that action.
"You can hear them in there, can't you, kitten? How they scream out in pleasure. How he dominates and makes them scream out for more. That could be you," said Nibi as she giggled perversely, and was trying to make her vessel give in to the itch instead of resisting it. "Shut up. I am not going in there and you can't make me," thought Yugito, as she tried to block out the screams of the girls calling on their master to give it to them, and stick his big juicy cock into her, their wet pussy lips, while they climaxed in sweet pleasure. "I can't make you. Oh dear kitten, you forget that while I can't move your body, I can influence you to get so horny that you will march in there after he's done strip and ride him until you pass out in sexual bliss," said Nibi, as she felt her vessel blush at that. And the sound of Tayuya now screaming out how she liked it in her ass, along with her being his naughty foul mouth. "Slave bitch."
You wouldn't, thought Yugito, as she saw Nibi grin at her, and knew she would. Try me kitten. Even though you are a virgin, we both know that you have had desires in the past that thanks to me have been repressed, knowing that it would be wrong due to the rumors it would spread about you back in Kumo. The last thing the Raikage needed was an excuse to have you turned into a breeding factory to give him a litter of demonic-empowered children, said Nibi, as that had been the case where the Raikage had planned to use Yugito for just that within a few years' time, and now this situation kind of shot that down straight to hell. Yugito tried to resist the desires inside of her because of what was happening not far from her own room, but the sounds of pleasure, and the final screams of pleasure from both girls that echoed into silence were too much. The ache inside of her could not be ignored, denied, and suppressed like she had done so many times before today.
She wanted Namakai's Vergil. Now! With Vergil. Vergil panted at the feel of his orgasm slowly left him from banging a face down Tayua in the ass. While looking over at Kin on her back, covered in cum in the same position with some of the fluid his clone gave her slowly leaking out her rectum, too. The two had both begged for it after being taken from behind, and then on their backs, after being injected with his sperm inside their snatches, along with having it sprayed on their bodies. Ever since he took them, the two had wanted to mate with him more, which helped to elevate his own darker emotions, and make his stay in the leaf tolerable. Granted, Hinata, Tenten, Tamari, now an ambassador from Suna, and recently Anko had helped in that regard by not being afraid of his usually cold exterior along with his past actions regarding the old orphanage.
Ino had been a little scared, but Vergil had assured her that he wasn't so bad like the adults made him out to be, and he would like to be her friend if she still wanted to have the opportunity. As Vergil looked down at his slave girls, he leaned over them before giving them each a kiss on the cheek that made them moan out in pleasure, and it made him smile at the notion he was able to make them happy.
Vergil's thoughts were soon interrupted though when Yugito came into the room wearing only a dark blue robe before walking up to him and giving him a heated kiss on the lips. Raising an eyebrow at her, Vergil saw the lust in her eyes, and her nude form when she disrobed in front of him, before she ran a hand over his once. Again, rising erection,